Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 6th episode of Cultist Simulator, playing as David Ellison, the bright young thing. So we got quite lucky with the Velvet last time. We went to the well. I say the Velvet, but it's not the only force behind it. But in any case, we wound up getting some vitality. Again, coming in at the last minute. And as a result, we didn't need to pay for the medicine. So we're still out for 60 seconds for the health, just as we recover. But in this case, I didn't need to use up the study verb, which is currently being used to improve my my imagination. I've gone down the path of folly. And we are on a little bit of a hold from painting just as we improve our skills. This will potentially cost me as far as the notoriety is concerned. But we're at a fairly good point. If we're going to get hit by it, there was a time where we had a little bit more mystique on the board, but certainly we have a lower probability at this point. One of the things that we're going to turn our attention towards is either improving our health or our reason. So either one of these things, in one sense, a circumstance will dictate that. So if I wind up with other points of vitality, probably wouldn't hurt for me to try and improve that, especially because that's one of the more difficult ones for me to improve. However, I am going to be reading a number of books, and hopefully I'm going to be fulfilling some commissions reasonably soon as well, and that would sort of incline me more towards going down the reason path, just because of all of the different erudition that I'll be gaining. But again, it's one of these matters where, as much as anything, I think I just want to see what the game throws at me, and then we can make some decisions based on what opportunities are available. So we'll let all of the different plates spin for a little bit. You'll notice I was using the heart to speak of esoteric matters just so that I could try and get the heart event. That may still trigger, but we're not at the point where I need to panic yet. We've passed the point of panicking because we've got the vitality. We're at the point here where this would be an input to improving my health. The place behind desire. This is something like enlightenment. So I've got a lot more glimmering than I really know what to do with. Under normal circumstances, I would be using these as, an input to study. But of course, my study verb is occupied with other things. We also got lucky, so as long as I let this notoriety die a natural death, we can focus on more passion-based paintings, and it's not going to pay the bills, but it will, I don't need to worry about the investigation anymore. And in fact, one of the things that's nice, while I do the passion paintings, that is going to extend the mystique, but I'm not going to have to worry too much about, I'm trying to think of circumstances under which I would generate notoriety, and unless I start doing expeditions, I should be fine. So I may actually just let the investigation keep rolling until I'm in a position where I can say, okay, I'll let this level out because I have enough savings to lie low for a while. Okay, old unhappy far off things. A half-glimpsed wistfulness has touched me. This is going to go straight into the painting, but we have a few seconds before we can work on that. Oh, we're going to have another old unhappy far off thing, so I may not be able to work with that alone. I do have other options though, and you will see those in a little bit. Hunger glows in my brain, hunger for the knowledge the invisible arts might bring. The watchman, who is the door in the eye, waits in my dreams. If I learn the lantern lore and I dream of this temptation, I can advance my purpose. The need gnaws at me. So I suspect we're not going to be able to paint both of these away, but we're going to do our best. So I'm a little annoyed that we lost the passion for that, but the place behind desire. Is there something to be learned from the satisfaction of desire? And now my soul lies ready, so we've got an open soul. Behold, they stand at my door and knock. If I hear any voice, I will open the door, and they will come in to me, and sup with them, and they with me. Also, for some reason, I keep forgetting that this clears out the staleness. So it's actually... Clearly, this was designed all along for me to... So to try and hasten the end of the investigation, I'm going to take the long-lasting mystique and say... Well, actually, hang on. Does that make the most sense? No, what I want to do is I want the weary detective to eat up the long-lasting mystique. So what we'll do is the stuff that's about to expire soon, we'll preserve that. And we will use this restlessness as an inspiration. So the question is whether or not we can finish the painting within 52 seconds. Better not, I must be careful of the company I keep. Okay, so next question. What do I want to do with the study verb? I don't have any influence to sort of combine. If I want, I could double up the glimmering, but there's nothing else to improve as far as the painting is concerned. One thing I could do would be to study sort of the reason and just get the erudition and all of that, but that's a little... I'm never that excited about taking that option. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to pursue the studies that are most in line with me accomplishing some of my goals. So that's going to mean lantern lore for two reasons. Number one, so that I could advance my temptation, although I suspect I can already take some steps towards that. But also advancing my lantern knowledge so that I can do Dr. Redeem's commission, seeing as I seem to only be getting more followers at this point. So in this case, we will start by reading The Locksmith's Dream, A Light Through the Keyhole, the first volume of Teresa Gallmer's examination of the parallels in the mystic dreams of artisans. The parallels in mystic dreams experienced by carpenters, masons, and other artisans, and what they purport to reveal about the architecture of the world. Sometimes mordant, sometimes funny, no one has ever explained why Gallmer devoted herself to this chaotic exploration of artisans' dreams. Now the other question is, what do I want to do with the explore verb? I would break the double-digit rule as far as the funds are concerned. I suppose the other thing I could do would be to auction off the poetry at Oriflamme's. But then the question is, well, is that, like, is this such an emergency? Like, would I want to do that? I think in this case, just so I can use the explore verb. That's an interesting question, actually. I was thinking of sending out a follower, but the follower doesn't necessarily get me anything that I need right now either. So I think I am going to sell off the collection of poetry at Oriflamme's. This oddity is probably worth something, but it's hard to know for sure. The sick room grows close and stale. Time to get up. Okay, let's go back to the wood. Oh, what am I doing? Now I pass between scarbark trees. The moon passes behind branches, though her fingers remain in my hair. I'm stumbling over roots now. It is tempting to drop to all fours to avoid the low branches. Pale wings move deep in the night. So I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. I think this time I will invest the funds. It's a bit of a questionable one here just because we don't have any notoriety to throw into it, but I'm actually happy about that. So, dark days, I must be careful not to let doubts creep in. And the auctioneer's gavel bangs, my item has sold. So in this case, we're getting the money back from what we paid for it in Moorlands, which is good. So the poet makes himself a seer by an immense, long, deliberate derangement of all the senses. The opposite of wisdom, thankfully. Honestly, I'm only going through the motions. The quality of my work will no doubt suffer. So again, we want to be careful with the restlessness. We've only got a few seconds left on this one. And I am able to paint it away. And we got quite a bit of money back on this, so 3 funds. My recent work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. Now, we did get a long-lived mystique out of that, which is not so good. We also got some staleness, so this may be the time I want to consider a passion painting. Now that is going to blow up my... that's going to wind up blowing up my mystique, but that's fine because right now we're looking to get rid of restlessness to avoid a negative consequence. Although we do have the contentment to get, to counteract it. Now we have Neville. I've been bad at reading the names for the different followers. What I'll do is I'll read it before I upgrade them just so we can see the contrast from sort of the base level to the advanced occultists. Okay, let's get our staleness down and our restlessness obliterated. This should have an impact. A restless longing has me. I feel I want to do something. What exactly? You'll also notice that the talk verb is open, so the reason why I left that open... Well, one, we kind of just finished with it, but one of the other things that I'm doing in the background here is, if I was in a situation where I wanted to where I wanted to get rid of the restlessness, we always have that option of bringing someone into the cult using the restlessness. Now, in this case, I actually have two options, which is number one, I can use the Watchman's Secret and use the restlessness as trappings, but just because we can bring people into the Mirror of Glory from being acquaintances rather than believers, it's actually, I don't even need to worry about the lore in that case. Also, I think I hit the mic stand, so sorry about that. But one way or the other, it doesn't matter. We're going to be able to make some money out of this. Let's talk about... So there's a side of me that wants to talk about the lantern, seeing as I'm sort of implicitly gunning for erudition here. It's probably the best. Talking publicly about the invisible arts will attract attention. Perhaps that's what I want. Now, if we need passion, I may not have that available. We'll see. Time and again, we hear of the wood, which rises from the world's foundation. All trees reach for light. What does the wood reach for? Is there a difference between light and light? I think the key to dreams of the wood might be one of these, the one that isn't exactly real. So we've got another Watchman's Secret to show for it. We can try and level this up. For that, we would require erudition. Now, erudition is something that I want to put into upgrading a stat. So I think what I'll do here is we'll just move on to the second volume of the Gallagher work. I am sort of breaking my kind of my implicit goal of moving down the path of getting better lantern. But the reason why I'm avoiding this is that to read portions and proportions, number one, we may get another erudition out of it, which would be very good. But number two, if I want to read what is contained by silver, I need to read Kerner and Goethe. Then I would need to translate what is contained by silver. So that's 2 minutes that's already spoken for. Then I actually read what is contained by silver. So that's 3 minutes that I spend in order to get that one lantern lore, which again is likely going to be a higher level lore, which I need. But I'm also looking for things like secret histories and other details. Also, particularly, I'm looking for erudition, and the timer's already started on this erudition here. I can reset the timer by getting a second erudition, but we don't have that second erudition yet. And so being able to roll the dice a few times and potentially get some more erudition, I certainly haven't committed the books that get me erudition to memory. Being able to read these books, I can get through 3 of them in the time that it would take me to get through and what is contained by silver, and as a result, that's increasing the chances of me getting one of these things that I want. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm going to be potentially... I can see how some people would think that that's me moving against sort of the stated interest that I have, but in fact here it's just a question of prioritizing based on sort of this fleeting influence. I soak up knowledge as a shadow soaks up light. I may be close to advancement. So, The Locksmith's Dream, Portions and Proportions, the second volume of Teresa Gallagher's examination of the parallels in the mystic dreams of artisans. The frontispiece has been slashed with a razor. In this volume, Gallagher records fewer dreams and explicates more on her own elaborate theories. We see this again and again. What is below can't escape what is above. Okay, well, we don't want the buzzing in the brain, so the question would be, do I go to the Temple of the Wheel or the Well? Let's try Temple of the Wheel here. Trembling airs, that will get into a vitality at some point. This may be an opportunity for me to improve my health, but I'm not going to focus too much on it for now. In the wood beyond the walls of the mansis, a jagged rock rears like the petrified remains of a dancing giant. I trailed my hand along its flank, over the eye signs and lichen and the crude graffiti of the lesser wood powers, and I felt the thrumming of the wheel, which has passed. It has passed, but something continues. Trebling airs, the toes tap, all is brisk and all is well. Sorry, the rest was just description for the player. Alright, so I suppose the question is, do I want to try and risk a trip to the wood, given that I'm going to have probably 2 different demands on my passion. I think we'll let that simmer for a bit. So this one I'm not going to spend on the paints for, just because this is something to get rid of the staleness. Hopefully we'll see a return for it, but in this case I won't spend on marketing. Utter focus. All that I am is here. Now there is a danger that this is going to translate into fascination, but I have ways around that. The wolf despair prowls elsewhere. No dread empowers this despair. It's over for now. And the auctioneer's gavel bangs. My item is sold. So that got us 2 funds. So we got a... This was us playing the market. In this case, because we've got the surplus of funds, I'm going to go back to Moorlands and buy a new book. It takes time to sort the gold from the dross, the wheat from the chaff, the blood from the water. If I buy enough books, I'll find something interesting. This is something special. It may provoke a reaction. Alright, that is 2 restlessness that will be getting fairly close one after the other. My recent work has attracted a couple of callers. With luck, something will sell. So I'm just going to do a normal collect here. So I'm happy to see that the staleness is gone, so we're going to take the open soul. I don't even have any options here where we have to go for the mystique. Well, that or just don't paint, but... And we've got either 119, 115's a little older. You never know, this might be a living. Oh, am I gonna... I should actually just wait a little while on that. The watchman, who is the door in the eye, waits in my dreams. If I learn the lantern lore and I dream of this temptation, I can advance my purpose. The need gnaws at me. Actually, it did just occur to me that I can at least advance the enlightenment. So let's go ahead. I'm actually kind of tempted to keep this on the board just because we know it's going to expire already. So the one thing I did lose, if I didn't pause, then the painting would have just finished sooner. But I don't think we're going to be in a situation where we can't paint away the old and happy far off things. We may have a staleness as a result, but I can still work with that. Should I dedicate myself to my purpose or focus my efforts elsewhere? We will dedicate ourselves to the light. I will dedicate myself to the pursuit of knowledge. I could have, done this earlier, but this is a nice time to do that because we have another mentor coming. We also have used up all of our passion. So this is something that I can use to improve the... this is something that I can use in the dream, I can use the dream slot for, which I was going to use anyway. Alright. The finest artisans all dream of the white door in the end. I'm no artisan, only a scholar. I think there's a secret that these artisans know, but I think that secret is only half the story. So there's the locksmith's secret now. That I don't believe is going to get us where we need to go. But that should be the last bit of lore that we need as well. So sooner or later, every locksmith has the dream. Now we recite its 7 phrases. And the knock permits no seal and no isolation. It thrusts us gleefully out of the safety of ignorance. So I'm going to hold back a little bit on the erudition here, just because if I can extend the life and get erudition through other means, then that's just going to make it all the easier for me to get the lesson start that I need. I need 2 for the improvement here. So once one of these things goes down to 60, then we'll use the study verb, but until then, it doesn't hurt to kind of keep some powder dry. So we're going to start reading about the histories. An introduction to the histories. The 17th century mystic and antiquarian Claude Hirschelt describes divergent incidents in 5 major histories. The prologue warns at length of the iniquities of one Julian Cosley, a former colleague who Hirschelt now describes darkly as a worm of worms. It seems Cosley advised Hirschelt early in the writing of the book, but Hirschelt later became suspicious. right, more language. I found something noteworthy. Gartside's Sanskrit Reader, a lucid book which outlines a careful path through the thickets of a vast and complex language. We have the money for another purchase, so we'll buy at Moreland's again. It takes time to sort the gold from the dross, the wheat from the chaff, the blood from the water. If I buy enough books, I'll find something interesting. And we will, I think in this case we can afford to pay for the paints. And there's our restlessness. So we'll definitely finish the painting in time. I'm not too worried about that. It's more about whether or not we'll get any money from painting the restlessness. It's coming out better than expected. This is something special. It may provoke a reaction. So even though we didn't put any passion in there, it was, oh, that's a really good return. My recent work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. That will keep us in books for a while now. And no staleness to boot. So once again, we're going to use any of the... Basically, I want to use the oldest mystique that I can. There is a side of me, I will find life more convenient if I don't have an investigation into me, but it's not a major concern right now. So again, I'm just trying to take whatever the oldest mystique is to preserve that lifetime. We'll let the investigation continue normally. So this one, right, this lived for less than a minute, and it's already been taken as part of the investigation, and it doesn't get them anything. So that's the reason why I'm taking the particular form, why it takes the particular form that it does now. But of course, if I'm painting, I'm staying in the public eye, and that means I'm going to be generating mystique as well. I don't think it's possible for me to make money the way that I am right now and not essentially have a permanent investigation into me. But what I can do is I can run that investigation long enough to get some heart followers who can then try and get rid of the notoriety in time, or potentially some moth followers to get rid of the evidence. That's obviously further down the road. Traveling at night. All right. Again, all of this stuff doesn't require translation, so that goes earlier on in the queue. Let's keep buying books. So Season of Ardors is coming up. If we had a dread problem, the contentment would basically get rid of it, but for now we're just gonna enjoy some peace. And we've got Madame Bichet, who earned me some mystique for hanging out in certain places. For those of you who are interested in the lore of the game, I believe, or actually I think it might be Oriflammes now that I think of it. There are two entities that are interesting and have an appearance in the Locksmith stream. This is the live event that, so it's a separate company called Tricuspid Limited, but it is affiliated with Weather Factory. It's run by a lovely gentleman named Ivan Carrick, and then of course Lottie Bevan and Alexis Kennedy are also involved in it, although Ivan is certainly sort of the driving force behind this event. And there are sponsors for each of the different rooms, so there are entities which I don't believe have been mentioned in the Secret Histories yet. So there's the Endeavor Club, there is the Lighthouse Institute, and there's the Hostorium, which at least two of those I'm pretty sure haven't appeared in at least inside of the game Cultist Simulator. I can't speak to the lady afterwards. And then of course there's a larger world now. There is promotional material out for Book of Hours, which may be referring to these entities. There's also, I believe, been some letters sent out as parts of those boxes that get sent out. There's a few different ways to find Secret Histories things, and so I'm definitely feeling like I have less of a grip on all of the material that's out there. And again, I haven't really gone in depth on it, but there are definitely a couple of familiar names as well, and I believe the Oriflammes letter is at least partly released on, if not the Weather Factory blog, definitely the Locksmith Stream blog. And if you are interested in that, I do encourage you to check out the Locksmith Stream website, because there is more stuff about the event that's been released, including some testimonials. It's a very, very warmly received event, and these were the people who got the beta experience, the first sort of full event is kind of pending, but so far as I understand, the kinds of changes that will be happening between the beta event and the release are more about sort of tweaking some details as opposed to sort of a full-on revision. But yeah, so the Oriflamme's letter is part of the marketing material for that, and then the other entity is the Kerisham Review, which of course we have Madame Bichet for. Madame Olympia Bichet edits the Kerisham Review, which publishes material too ghastly or thrilling for other literary magazines. She could use your assistance. So I'm assuming, I personally think that if you are an attendee of the Locksmith stream, and please do mention if you, I suppose, have attended, but if you are planning on going, definitely let yourself be known in the comments. But particularly if you're going as the Kerisham Review, I sincerely hope that you are going to put on an old-time hat and have one of those press tags hanging out of it. Although it is not a LARP. Okay, light's dedication. I've spoken the words, each hour has its color, but color exists only where there is light. I will go where there is light, though it bleach me to glass. I have advanced a step towards a terrible ascension. So here is our dedication. I have dedicated myself to the pursuit of higher understanding. I must see beneath the skin, whatever the cost. Now, if I want, I can study this. But we are using the erudition for something else, so we'll see if maybe we can just get our lantern lore elsewhere. Moving on, though, let's talk about the Watchman's Secret. We're doing this so that we can potentially trigger a light in the skull and get an erudition. Talking publicly about the invisible arts will attract attention. Perhaps that's what I want. Before I do that, though, let's have a chat with Madame Bichet about a commission. She's seeking pieces for the notorious Kerisham Review. And we can definitely go back to the wood. If I have enough passion, I can walk the dream road to the wood. I might have the right... if I have the right knowledge, I might be able to find the way beyond it. Now I pass between scarbark trees. The moon passes behind branches, though her fingers remain in my hair. I'm stumbling over roots now. It is tempting to drop to all fours to avoid the low branches. Pale wings move deep in the night, and we'll spend money on paints. And we want a very substantial commission on Grail, so that's going to be beyond our abilities for the next little while. Madame Olympia Bichet is seeking suitable articles for the Kerisham Review. She wants something very substantial and unflinching on the Red Grail. In addition, we've finished Introduction to the Histories. Hirschalt identifies blood, silver, design, and the worms as the central axes of each of the histories, and claims that the so-called second history is the true one. I thought for some reason there were 5 histories. So I'm wondering about the absence of... yeah. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's more that I can pull out of that. All right, The War of the Roads, 1450 to 1580, censored edition. Willis Ford describes the War of the Roads, an event in a history other than our own, in detail. But numerous pages have been removed, the name of the publisher is blacked out, and an ominous slip has stapled to the cover explains that Willis Ford has been excised. In the past, a score or more longs were made. They brokered a peace with the Forge of Days, long enough to set England on a path of early conquest and eventual destruction. The Forge itself devoured the greatest among them. Okay, we're also ready to talk about the Watchman's Secret now. Talking publicly about the invisible arts will attract attention. Perhaps that's what I want. And 47 seconds. Oh dear, I may want to paint about the erudition now because I blew it on the... the timing. Moreland's is closing. I'm moving on, Miss Moreland informs you. My stock is largely exhausted and the Suppression Bureau is taking an interest. So it's goodbye. This last book is nonsense, but I've tucked some interesting papers into the back as a thanks for your custom. So here we've got the Ardent Orison. That's a second of this Forge lore that I've got, so level 4. Something, deep mystery, something. A dreadful souffle of half-digested rumor about the secret worlds and the irrelevance of contemporary morality, including a catalogue of unlikely and probably invented debaucheries. If I bought this from a shop, it probably means there's nothing else of interest left in stock. deep down, I want to believe that this is the first book that was made in Cultist Simulator. It certainly wasn't the first one available in the beta that I played, but that doesn't mean that that isn't the first one that was written for testing purposes. In any case, we will wind up selling this when the time comes. And we have a location to investigate. Well, maybe not investigate, but move to. All right. I think we can wrap it up there. I've got some exploration to do. I've got some other details to take care of, but we did hit the half-hour mark, and we got a few things done. So we've more or less weathered any threat that's directed to us. We've dedicated ourselves to our temptation. The only thing that hasn't been resolved yet is the investigation, and I suspect that is going to take a while. But while that's ongoing, what I'll do is I'll just continue to sort of swell the ranks. We will try and get Heart and Moth followers to be able to make the the evidence go away, or just not be generated in the first place, and then we'll continue to buy up books, read them, and otherwise try to pursue our interests. But that will happen in tomorrow's episode. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.